Evening everybody, and welcome to this week's Scam Pro Audio webcast. Just before we get going, a bit of cool news. Our Velocity 2014 competition is now live. You can hear people saying, well, what is that? Well, I'll tell you what that is. That is possibly the grooviest competition you've ever seen. In conjunction with Intel and Scan, we are looking for people who can write pop songs. We're looking for people who can write rock songs. We're looking for people who can generally just make cool music. We're looking for photographers, videographers, people who can do motion graphics. You should be able to see behind me this advert, which should be in pretty much every music magazine this month and next month. Certainly be in Rocksound magazine, because they're one of our sponsors. Check it out. We've got videos on the site explaining what you have to do. There's a whole landing page for it. There's a video that was just on there before with our very own Simon talking you through how you go about it. But it's really cool, and the prizes are incredible. The prizes are things like getting to spend a day with TMS, who's Simon Cowell's own production guys. They've worked on pretty much every number one that came out last year. They're going to sit and work with you on your track. They're going to show you tips and tricks and basically a heck of a time. We've got the guys from Rocksound magazine are promoting the rock side of things. We've got top rock producers who's going to be helping you out as a prize with that. Too much for me to go on about, but check it out. You can see the thing behind me there. This evening we've got we don't have a special guest, but he's special anyway. He's our resident very own Simon Lyon, who was sent away to Berlin, where they put chips in his neck and things and made him able to converse with Ableton at all levels. No, they didn't, but he is a certified Ableton trainer, and he's going to be with you right after this.
Hope you're all well out there in Ableton production land. If you're all in the chat room, do let us know where you are and what you're up to so we can just get some good feedback, and do ask questions throughout, because tonight we're focusing on the push controller, Ableton Push. So this is the controller it's the first controller Ableton have actually made themselves. It's actually manufactured by Akai. Now I won't pick it up, but it's quite a solid piece of kit actually. It's got an aluminium base, so it's not like a sort of cheap poxy controller. It's a really good controller. So what I'll do, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to take you through making a beat, bass line, that kind of thing. I'm going to take it quite simple and explain step by step what's going on. We've got different cameras like going from above. You can see me there, and we've also got the screen if needs to be. Now the idea of Push is that you don't need to look at the software. Now Ableton Live is the engine, if you like, that's powering all this. So you do need to be working alongside a computer running Ableton Live 9. So it only works at Ableton Live 9. We were talking before that it's actually influenced the design of the software, has influenced the controller, and vice versa. So what I'll do, I'll get straight into it. All I've got on the computer is I've gone up to Ableton Live 9, I've opened it, started a new set, and this is what you're faced with. So this is the screen where you see most of your feedback of what's going on basically. And at the moment it says no devices, press browse to add a device. So straight away browse is on your top right here. I click browse and it opens this dialog. Now what you've got here now is you've got every instrument and rack that's installed on my laptop, which is this particular one is the full Live 9 suite. So basically you've got all kinds of stuff. You've got drums, bass, guitar, synths, everything pretty much in there you need. A lot of these synths and packs are made by third-party people for Ableton, so you get a real range of stuff from sort of Project Sam, do some strings and things like that, orchestral stuff, all kinds of stuff that you use in a variety of music. So I'm going to try and keep the music style just kind of generic so you can relate to it yourself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with a drum rack. I'm going to put a drum beat on. I'm going to use a kit that sort of shows the dynamic response from the pads, the velocity. So I'm going to use one of the pads, drums, sorry. I'm going to go for the this Session Club kit. And what I've done, I've scrolled up and down using these, just like columns on your computer screen. I've got drum rack here. You can use the rotaries to move up and down, but just so my hand didn't get in the way, I just use these to move up and down. So once you've chosen this one, I'm using Session Club. Within that, there are different kits. I'm just going to use this one, Big Punchy. And to select the kit, you just hit the green button. Nobody ever showed me that. I had to work that bit out myself. So I'm moving up and down, choose that one, press the green button, it says loading. Now you'll see this all changes. So what you've got now is the actual layout of the drum mode. This is the drum rack. This is a sequencer where you actually put your notes in. You can see the feedback of the notes. And this is where you are in the bar. So first of all, when you've got it, first thing you probably do is just hit some pads. So as I mentioned before, these pads, well, you can't quite tell from looking at them on the screen, but they're quite good to touch. They do feel like the skin of a good drum or one of the better made MIDI drum kit sort of thing. It's a nice pad to hit. And you can hear there that if I hit it softly, there's the kick drum. If I hit it hard, so you've got a real range, so it gives you a bit more of a human feel. So this is, on my pads, I've got a rim shot there, snare, and again, a good range there. Cowbell, my hi-hats. So some of you will probably be able to just play on these, play a drum beat. But if you can't do that, and you've not really had the chance to have a go or practice, but you've got beats in your head and you've got ideas, this is where push really comes into play. What I can do, if I've got a particular groove, I've been listening to something, I've just watched something or heard a band play or any kind of music, you've got some sort of tempo in your head. So say I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, that sort of beat there. So I can go to the push controller and top left, you've got tap tempo. Now this is something that's come from Ableton Live. It's one of the great things about it. You tap the tempo and it follows you. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. If I put the metronome on, you can hear that there. So I'll just turn my metronome down a bit. I'm just going to turn the metronome down there. But that's basically the tempo that I've put. If you want to change that, you can adjust the tempo, slow it down there. I'll just turn the metronome off for now, but basically it'll follow your groove. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put a kick drum down. Now what you've got here, if I press this here, it'll start to move. And this I'll explain how it's broken down. So you've got the drum selection here. Whichever drum you've selected turns blue. So I'm going to look at the kick drum, and there it is. Now if you wanted to select that without somebody hearing it, like say you're doing it live or something, you just press select and you can do that and it will focus on that drum. So we're going to go for the kick drum. Now what this is, this represents 1 bar of music. You can have up to 16 here. If I press those two together, it'll play 2 bars. But I'm just going to focus on 1 bar. Now this is split up, 1 bar of 4/4, which is 4 beats in the bar, and it's split up into 16. And you can change this on the right here. I'll just show you that. That's 16, so you've got 16 boxes representing 1 bar of music. So if I put the metronome back on, you've got, I'll wait till it goes around there, you've got 1 is here, 2, 3, 4. So if I want 1 on every beat, all I need to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll play that. So you can see where the beat is now. And if I change this to 8, what it does, it basically halves the amount. So you can see now there's only 8 boxes to 1 bar. You could even make that, because I've just done 4, you press 4 and you can just see 4 there. But usually, if any of you use sequencers before or software, you usually need these gaps to make the music sound great. So what I've done there, I've kept that like that. And if you want to just push the tempo, which I will there, if you want to do another drum, say the snare drum, as soon as I hit the snare drum, these have gone because it's focusing on the snare. So if I want to put a snare on beat 2, I can do that there. And I'll put it there as well. So really simple, just a simple sequence. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the kick drum. I don't want it to do that, so I want to do something different. So something like that. You can do anything you want. So basically you colour the boxes in to make the pattern you want. So that's a snare there. And if I want to do a little drum fill, I just colour more boxes in. So if I go like this, and you've got... Now, incidentally, any of you know what velocity is how hard I've hit the keys or the pads. Now, if I want to change this to make it louder, this one, I can hold that down and I can change the velocity. So if you notice now, it goes darker. It should be darker blue, that one. And you might not be able to see it at home, but if I make the rest of them lighter, I'm holding 3 pads down at once, and I'm changing the velocity. So when you're programming drums, the idea is to make them sound like a bit more human. When you actually play something in our program, it's never really going to be the same volume if you're playing it in real life. So if you can see that there, if I play it, you'll hear the difference slightly. That's louder. Try to make those a bit quieter, so maybe even quieter. So I've made them really quiet now, like little ghost notes. So you might want to put a snare drum, some hi-hats in, sorry. Now if you want to play those in, if I can play those in, I could correct my timing. If I draw them in, they'll be definitely on the beat. But what you can do is you've got quantize. Those who've never heard the expression quantize before, quantize means to put into time, basically, or put it into the boxes. So if you played a note that was in between this box and that box, it would push it to the nearest 16th. So if I hold quantize down, I'm quantizing to 16th. And this one here is to record quantize, which I'm going to turn on. And what that means is when I play into this the hi-hat pattern I'm going to do now, it will automatically push it into the nearest box, basically. So if I play that now, so I've got one there, I'll get rid of that stray one. So this time, press record, it's still focusing on this one bar. So you've got 1, 2, 3. I'll put the click on so you can hear it. So if I just play this hi-hat pattern, I'm just going to go like this. So as soon as it's filled the bar, I can stop playing. I'll turn the metronome off. So you probably see there, because I played it with my hands and played it in, you can see the velocity is a little bit more human. So if I want to make this particular beat stronger there, hold that down, change the velocity a bit higher. You get a bit of a groove into it then. Change that one there. Okay, so that is just 1 bar of music. And if I wanted to duplicate it to make it 2 bars of music, I've selected this bit now, but now this is blank. So what I can do, you've got this double button here. If I click this, it will now turn it into a 2 bar pattern. Actually, I'll do it there. So press that again. And I want that to double there, just double that one. So now I've got 2. What I did then, actually pressed it, I had 2 selected, and it copied it into the 4th bar. So make sure that you've just pressed the one you want and then double it. So that's now a 2 bar pattern. And you might want to vary that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make duplicate this pattern. If I press duplicate, it's going to make a new version. Now, if you've ever seen Ableton Live's session view before, if we could just show the screen, Tom. The session view is made up of lots of different clips, audio, MIDI clips that you can put together, and you can basically jam. This is Ableton Live's jamming screen. Get all your ideas down. Now, we don't really need to look at this, but I'm just showing you so you can see what's happened. So this is session view. So you can change the session view on the push controller. If you look back at the push controller now, this represents what you've just seen on the screen. So this is my clip there. So if I press duplicate, it will create another clip. So I can vary this now and still have my original. The idea of push is to create and just get all your ideas down. That's the main idea about this. Just get everything down and you can look at it later and make a song and organize it. So we will do that there. I'll just go back to the drums. Back into that. So there's my pattern now. Then what I'm going to do, just to show you can see the difference, I'm going to delete all these hi-hats. I'll focus back on 1 bar. And what I'm going to do is if I press delete, now delete, if I just press delete by itself now and press it quick, it will delete the whole clip. Okay, now if I did that, it's gone. It says clip deleted there. Luckily, there's a lovely undo button just there. Press that, brings it back. So don't be scared of making mistakes. This is what it's all about. Just get it down. So if I go now, I want to delete just the hi-hats. Now if I hold delete down and just click the hi-hat pad, it will delete everything that's on there. But if you just want to delete certain ones, sorry, just go back onto that one. If I want to delete certain ones, you can just go through it. And I'm just going to delete, say, I'll just randomly delete one if you want. But if I do that and play it now, you'll just hear. So let's go back onto my track. Do that one. So back into that one. So now these hi-hats have gone. So press delete. I can just do that. Or you can just turn them off. Whichever way you find easiest. If I hold delete down and do that, it will delete all the ones there. So now I want to change that. I'll just get rid of those as well. I'm going to change it instead of a ride, I'm going to use a ride instead of a hi-hat. So with this one, I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'll do, I'll just draw those in. So play that now. And I think that ride's a bit loud. If you look here, it's selected the kit at the top, and that's the actual drum rack for the whole sounds. But I want to just change the volume of the ride symbol. So if I select that one now, it's ride symbol, and if you look at the top there, it's like that means ride basically, which is part of the kit. If I select that, I can now change the volume of that individual drum. If I just turn that down now, there's that. You can change things like the pitch of it if you want to. You can get into each individual drum. Now that's something that I'll go into that on another session, because you can do all kinds of groovy stuff with that. You can automate things, but just for now, just get your ideas down. So now if I go back to this now, if I go back to my session, I've got pattern 1, which has got the hi-hats going. And the way that Ableton Live works is when you're in this session view, when I hit the next clip, it will wait till the next bar and move on to the next clip. Now you can change that, but for now, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, move on to the next one, and 1, 2, 3, 4, moves on to the next. All right, so that's a really basic way of how to get your drums. This is the layout. You've got your actual drum pads, you've got the sequencer across the top, and you've got which part of the bar you want to use, your bar selectors. If I hit that one there, it would just play bar 16. If I hit that one, it would just play bar 1. If I hold that one and that one, it'll play bars through 1 to 4. So you can start to sort of have different variations and patterns within that. If you were playing it live, you could have like a drum fill on there, and you could just hit it when you wanted it and go back to that. You can do all kinds of things, but that's the basic idea of what it is. So now let's look at getting some kind of bass line or something to go along with it. How are we doing for questions, Tom? Anybody want to know anything about that particular area so far? Do ask questions, guys, out there, because when I first saw this, I was like, I need to see it and touch it and play it. And I've got to say, the more you do it, it does actually work. So, but what we'll do, I'll move on to the next bit. I'll just come out of that so you can see. While I'm just switching there, I press volume at the top there. So this has got the rotaries across the top. You can see I've just got volume for that one. I've only got one track. The red shows that that track's armed there. You can basically change panning and stuff like that. If you press the track button, you've got whichever track's selected, you've got all the controls that you normally get on a track within Ableton. So you've got volume, pan, stuff like that. So there you go, volume, pan, and your sends. But basically you can control practically everything from here. So what I'm going to do is going to add another instrument. So I'm going to press add track. Now I'm going to go for like a bass line or bass or something, just again to show you the melodic features of live and push, where it's really at. So I'm going to go into instrument rack. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to choose bass. Again, I'm going to use one of the, it's an electric bass from the Live 9 suite. I'll just get it, it's called electric. It's electric bass. And I'll show you the reason why I'm going to show this one. Now you can have open, which is open notes. You can have palm muted, which is like a muted sort of style when you're playing the bass, and slap bass. This one is kind of a combination of all of them. So I'll just choose electric there, press the green button, and I can load my new sound. So what happens now is, you can't see what's happened on the screen, but it's actually made a new channel, and you get this view. So now, if you've never seen this before, this is one of Push's strengths, and whether you can play an instrument or you can't, this is where it's sort of, you can sort of help yourself to get music out there and don't worry about what note you're playing. So like this. This is now playing an electric bass, and I'm starting on this note, which in this case is C. What you see before you is basically a C major scale. If you are familiar, you can imagine a piano, and it's all the white notes of a piano, from C to C. The blue squares are all C's, which is the root note or tonic, if you know your music theory. So this now is playing a C major scale. Now major is kind of the happier side of things, and most of the music I know that I listen to is in a minor key. Even if it's kind of happy music, minor keys tend to have a bit more mood. But the great thing with Push is, whether you know that or not, but your ear knows what's right, there's a button here called scale, and you hold scale down and you've got plenty of options. Now first of all, any of you that play guitar or bass would know the lowest note on a normal guitar or bass is an E, and I'm going to go for an E. So there's E, And on the top left, you can select all these different scales. Now, I won't go into depth right now, but I'm going to go for a minor scale. Now, you can go for all kinds of, you've got Dorian, Mixolydian, people who know the modes. It's all about different flavors and tonalities. The guys from Ableton have done a great job on this because you can create all these different flavors. So for now, I'm just going to use minor, which if I go back to major, you hear this. And if I go to minor, it's a little bit more melancholy. So if I let go of that now, I've got E minor. Now, just before I do let go, let me show you this. People like Steve, who spoke to you before, he's an accomplished musician, and he kind of knows where all the notes are, and he wants to play outside of it. So if you don't want the safety net of every note working, you can go into chromatic, which still shows you the right notes, but it's also got the wrong ones in as well, which for some styles of music, you do need those notes, and that's called chromatic. But for now, to make it easy to understand, we're going to do that now. And I've also put it in fixed mode, which now means that this is an E, but you've still got your C down here. So it's C, D, E, and the next one's there. So this is where it gets fun. You basically have got the scale, and it can go up any way. So if you watch when I press this note, green shows the note I'm playing. If I go from here to the right, you see these others also lighting up green. Green basically means it's another place for you to play the same note. When we try and do some chords later, you'll see that that's really helpful. So if I do a scale from here, I can go. We can also go. And there's different ways. You can find your own way around, basically. So what happens now, if I play with the drums, there's my drums. If I want to change the volume just to balance it out, I can just do that there. I'll just duck the drums a little bit so you can hear my bass. So now, I can jam a bass. And just before I talk about the velocity pads, again, I can play it really nice and lightly. I can play it really heavily. So it's really great to play. When you actually play it for yourself and feel it, you'll get it, the idea. So what I can do now is I want to record something there. So if I just play and jam an idea, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, the basic way, just press record, and it will drop you in, and you start playing, and when you press record, it will take it out at the beginning of the next bar. So what I can do is this thing called fixed length. If I've got an idea, I want to do 2 bars, you press fixed length, you hold it down, if you look at the top, it says 2 bars. I can make it 4 bars, I'll just do 2 bars. What this means is I press record, I start playing, and when the 2 bars comes to an end, it just carries on playing, okay? I'll just show you. So I'll put the metronome on so we can hear where 1 is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it carries on playing. So just like the drums before, I want to build variations up. So rather than just record extra onto that one, I'm just going to press new. So new just creates a completely new slot for me. If you just can switch back to here, Tom, just so I can show everybody. On the screen, you've got the red ones are my drums, and it's made a new slot. If you look underneath the yellow one there, that's my new slot for recording in. So as soon as I press record, it will appear there. So that's okay, we can go back to that now. So this time, if I want to, I can do 4 bars. So I'm going to go fixed length, 4 bars. So what this means is now, literally, I'll press record, and I've got 4 bars to jam with. So I'll try something different. So I'll press record and do something like that. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake, let's go for it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're back on. So if you want to do another variation, I'm just going to press new again. And this time, I'm just going to keep playing until I've had enough. So put the click on, try something different. 2, 3, 4. So I hit record them, and what it does, it automatically just repeats it from the next bar. So now I've got something going. I've got drums and I've got bass. If I go back to my session there, what happens now, these buttons which I showed you before, which are like 16th and quarter note, now work as horizontal triggers for these. If I press the one that says 32T there, it will play just those two together. So if I play that, that was my first pattern. I'll press these two, it will drop it in on the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my drum beats weren't very different anyway, they were pretty similar. Next one down. So slight variation. So basically you can start to jam your ideas and then listen back to those, and you probably think, I want some chords next, something like that. So I'm just going to put like an electric piano over the top so you can see how chords are made, and we'll look at some sort of melodies. So are we alright for questions, Tom? We okay there? Anybody want to know anything so far? Trying to make it as clear as possible because I know that you're probably all different styles of music. So we're going to specialise in future. The next time we're doing something like this, focused on Ableton, is April the 3rd. Is that right, Tom?
I think so.
Yeah, we've got another one. The idea is to do these like once a month, and we can go further into detail regarding composition and production and getting workflow and looking more into Ableton Live 9 itself. But for now, we're just focusing on push. So any questions? Are we okay?
Yeah, there's a couple coming in about general Ableton, but we'll save them till the end.
Oh, yeah,
So
right, no
let's
problem.
Carry on with push.
Okay, let's push on, no pun intended. Right, let's do it. So from now, you've got I switched to session mode, you can see that. So this is now, I've still got my bass sound there, and I want to add a new track. So as long as I'm not in browse mode, when you first get onto push, one thing you'll find is it does move quite logically, so you've just got to spend time with it, and once it makes sense, it's brilliant. And the idea is to just make it flow, so I'll get on with it. So now I want to add a new track, so you add new track. So add track, and it says what kind of track do you want, and this time I'm going to go for a piano or something. So I'm scrolling down here, I'm just going to go for piano and keys, and one I used earlier, it's like an electric piano, and it's called EP Faceplant. So press the green button and it loads it. So what happens now is it's open another new track, and it's within the same key. The scale button applies to all of it because it's in the same project, it treats them in the same key. So when you come to playing chords, now for those people who aren't sure what chords actually are, but basically what it is, I'm going to use triads, which is 3 notes at a time, and if you find the root note, which in this case is E, you can build these triads. So without turning this into a music theory lesson, it's the root, 3rd and 5th. So if you go up in a scale and you find the notes basically that sound good, and it will work if you go like this. If I press this one, I've basically gone the root, which is note 1, the 3rd note and the 5th note. So what you've got there, if you look, there's lots of possibilities. So just by me pressing that, that's actually an E minor triad. But it doesn't matter what key you're in. If I change the key, if I go back to scale here, I can change the key here. I'll just hold that again. If I change it to something completely different, that's now D flat, but it's same pattern, different key. So you can try about, move these around and it will give you a different sound. But basically that now is an E minor triad because I'm starting from my root. These are the alternatives you can play. Or you can play. Or you can play it. Whatever suits. This one is kind of the easiest one to visualize. So that now is an E minor chord. If I move it up, you've basically moved 4 notes up. So I won't even talk about what they are. Just listen to them and sound. You'll probably recognize these kind of chords, and putting chords together makes a chord progression. So if I just jam over these, I'll change that bass. I want a different bass there. I'll go with that one. So that's now On there, come out of browse. So that now has gone back to my bass. I want to go back to my piano. So one thing I'll just point out to you, when I was playing the bass before, I used the sort of dynamic range of these. So when I'm playing it soft, I was playing like a soft bass, and when I played it hard, it kind of like a slap bass sound. Now when you're playing this particular one, if you want to create like a really dynamic performance, you can play nice and sort of mellow. Now for this one, I want to play it on the full volume all the time because it takes some practice. You know, your hands can get tired obviously if you don't practice enough. So if I press accent over here, there's an accent button. And what accent means is, like I was doing with the drums before, I was making certain beats stronger. So it's like colouring the squares to make it dark blue. This kind of, when you press accent, it makes them the full velocity every time. So when I play this keyboard now, it's the full sound every time. So when you're sort of getting your ideas done, sometimes you might want that. In this particular case, I do, because I don't want to be on, I just want to hit the chord and make it work. So I can toy around with these chords. So I can now record that just like before. I can do the fixed length thing. I can hit fixed length, choose 4 bars, and record that the same way. So I'll put the metronome on so I know where 1 is. So I'll do the same thing again. So that's a chord progression, you know. You can mess around with it. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but there's one for you. Let's do a new one. Press new. So this time, what you can do, piano players, keyboard players will probably play a bass note at the same time. It makes it sound a bit more warmer kind of thing. So basically I just followed the pattern I'm using with the top pan, I just moved it across. So you can try all kinds of things. You don't have to know the music theory. It does help if you do, but playing with push, you realize that you can make stuff that sounds good, there's no mistakes in there, and you can just focus on getting the music out. So I'll press the record, I'll play it first. Do the same sort of thing again. And there it is. Now I can play over that. And obviously I can't play a note out of key, I can play it out of time, but the idea is just jam along. And if I move the octave up, these will all move down, so I've got more keys available. So if you wanted, I could overdub that and just play over it. If I press record, I can just play over the top of it, or maybe you want to open another track and put like a lead sound. So I'll do that just to show you how you do that. So if I now add another track, I may want to put my melody using a different instrument, like a lead sound or something. So we've got there drums, bass, chord, and we'll go for melody. Okay, just the same sort of thing I was doing. I'll just pick something else. So I'll go into. We've gone back into browse there, instrument rack. I'm going to go synth lead and just try one. Some of these quite varied from analog synths and stuff like that. I'll just try something that. This is the club. It's quite a sort of an aggressive lead sound, but I'll just put it in just so you can see what it's like. But I might need to turn this one down. I'll take accent off because it's quite loud. So let's go into my volume. There it is, the club, and I'll just turn it down a little bit. The reason I've chose this one is because something I've not mentioned on the left here is your pitch control. And it just basically can bend your notes. So you've got this. sort of thing. You go. So we'll put the accent back on. It'll go nice and loud. So it's quite aggressive for this sort of thing, so I'll turn it down a little bit. So you can record that, overdub it, make stuff, and then the idea is you build all these patterns up onto the session view, and you can press record on Ableton Live 9 and literally jam them on the screen. So I can just show you that if you want me to do that. But have you any more questions about push, Tom?
Yeah. Hang on 2 secs, I'll just scroll up.
Okay.
Okay. From the push, how do you drill down into a drum rack and
right.
control the volume fader and pan from the push, not from Ableton?
Right, so he wants to know how to get into the drums.
To go into a drum rack and control the volume fader and pan from the push.
Right, okay. So you need to have the channel selected in this case. And if you go in from this view right now, so if you look, if you can see on the push there, I've got the track selected. Here's my drum rack. Now, a drum rack is a device. It's an instrument, but it's a device. So you've got a device button at the top here. If I press device, it now shows me what devices are on that channel. Now, just to show you on Ableton Live, if you just flick to that, you can see here, this is the drum rack, the device. The bottom left, this is the whole thing where all the samples are contained. So it's actually the device. Now, if I've clicked, if you go back to push now, if I've selected this, press device, it will move to that. And because this one here, I've selected ride symbol, which I was talking about before, this now focuses on ride. So all these controls at the top relate to that one drum. If I do that now, if I change the pitch, that changes only the pitch for that one drum. If I hit the next one along, or hit the kick drum, if you notice the display changes. So if I go back to the ride symbol, it's on -1. I'll just do an extreme version. So it's on +7 now. And the volume, I'll move it right down. As soon as I select another drum, it changes because it's focused on that drum. So I mentioned before, we press select down, and if I do that, you won't be able to hear it. And if you look across the top, it's changing. Now it says pad selection ride. So it's actually, when you press select, it says a little bit more. You can see what it is, because before I was trying to tell you, rudder, but whatever it says there, that's ride. So you press ride, you only see that. But if you press select, it tells you which pad you've selected. So if you hold select down, you're going to be able to see more what it is. Does that answer the question?
I'm hoping so. We've got a bit of a delay thanks to YouTube.
Oh, okay. But
so
that's how you drill down into it. It's something that you can do. There's lots of ways you can get around it. You've just got to think of the way that Live thinks. It's a device. You get into it by selecting device. If I had other effects on that track, they would all appear there, and you would have to select the device. But because I selected the kit, again, if you hold select down, press that, and then whichever drum I select, it will then focus on that one.
Okay, we've got another question relating to the scales.
Oh, yeah.
Melvin would
Yes.
like to know, how do you play out of key? Because he plays a lot of jazz with weird scales. How many
So does
scales
Steve.
can you
Right,
change
okay.
to?
Right, what I'll do, I'll move to a melodic instrument. So I need to come out of this device now, the quickest way to get track. And I can see all these now. So what did I use? Oh, piano. I'll use the keyboard. So here now, this one. We'll turn it back up a bit. So he wanted to know, how do you play out of key? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, he wants to know.
Yeah,
how to
chromatic.
play out.
So the best way to play any scale, Western scale certainly, is to put it in chromatic mode, because then you can play anything you want. Some people are saying, can it do this scale and that scale? And to be quite honest, if you know what those scales are, then just play them in the chromatic mode. So you hold scale down, and now it's in chromatic mode. Now what it does in chromatic mode, it will still show you the notes from whatever you've got selected here. So if I want to, I can put Hungarian minor, which I'm going to scroll down to, everybody likes this because you've got Hungarian minor. So that all the white notes show the Hungarian minor scale, but you've still got the chromatic notes there. So if you play lots of jazz scales and you want to play that, you can have it emphasizing notes from the nearest scale. If you know your modes, you've got super Locrian there, a melodic minor. So if you're playing jazz, then you're going to know those scales anyway. So that's the actual scale, the white notes, and the accidentals, if you like, or the chromatic notes are all there as well. So you can get access to them, depending on what kind of player you are and where you are musically. It will adapt to you. We said we tried this with Steve from our Pro Audio team. He's a jazz musician. He wants to access those notes. So I had to turn scale off, put it to chromatic mode, so we could get at these other notes. Depends on sort of music you're playing. If you're playing sort of, house and things like that, and you want to be in key, certain styles it works to play outside, and sometimes it doesn't. So I hope that answers your question anyway. But good to know.
Okay, next up, are there any VSTs that can be controlled with push?
Yeah, well, all third-party VSTs that work with Ableton Live can be controlled via push. What you have to do is put them inside a rack. I will show you to do that on the next session we're going to do on April the 3rd, because I want to make sure that I go into it from detail. But basically, yes, you can is the answer. You just need to... For push to see it, it needs to be inside an instrument rack. And it's quite easy to do, but I'd like to show you properly when we've got more time. So next time, I will make sure I do that straight away. But the answer is yes. A third-party VST or audio unit, whatever opens in live, you just need to group it together into an instrument rack. And I'll show you how to do that next time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think that's about it. We're going to come back right now. Steve's going to rejoin Simon because we need to tell you about the special offers that you can get for being a viewer. So we're going to pop to some titles and then come back.
So, thanks to Simon for that. Point I should make is that Simon he works with us here, and as I say, he's a fully qualified Ableton chappie. If you do have any questions, any burning thoughts about anything, or if you just, if you want to buy one of these and you want to check it out some more, Simon's here. You can email him, you can ask him questions, you can phone up and talk to him, or you can come down to the store and ask for him. So that's one of the benefits of having him on board, I guess. Tom did mention before something that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and it's been quite exciting, so we're going to do it again. And it's simply this. There is a keyword, and I think Simon mentioned it earlier, but I'll mention it again just in case you didn't get it, which is faceplant. That's faceplant.
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 Now, if you were to email us here at scanproaudio@scan.co.uk and mention that the keyword is faceplant, we would be able to email you back with some rather fabulous offers on Push and Ableton 9 Live Suite and various other things. So, faceplant.
And don't forget, it doesn't matter if you're watching live or you're watching the archive.
Absolutely. If you could be watching the archive, you could do this. You could do this at your leisure. But do just drop us a line, an email, as I say, at scanproaudio@scan.co.uk. Mention faceplant, and we'll send you some offers out. Need to finish once again to remind you that our super competition, Velocity 2014, is now live and out there. There's the very lovely advert that should be appearing in pretty much every music magazine that you see. We have a landing page here on the Scan site. Come and find it. It has all the details on there. It's also got a video on which shows you exactly what you need to do. There are some fabulous prizes. Really, there are. These are just prizes that are too good to be true. So check them out.
Certainly, the Ableton
Absolutely.
category, where you can win not only a copy of Live 9 Suite, but every single expansion pack that's available. all with it.
All of them.
A PC to run it on. A Fireface UCX, a set of A7X monitors, a Keith McMillan Q Neo controller for it, and a sub pack.
A sub pack, Tom?
A sub
What's
pack?
that?
Do you mean a personal subwoofer that only you can hear and runs on batteries with an 8-hour life that you could take on the train, on the plane, in the bedroom, in the hotel? Unless you've got a groupie.
That's the very fellow. So do check us out. We have some phenomenal prizes, really just incredible. And they're all there on the landing page on the Scan site. So without further ado, look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks once again to our very own Simon. Thanks to Tom in the driving seat. Thanks to you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, guys.